Well, good morning, everyone. It is a beautiful Tuesday morning. We're on the last day of February, thus it's February 28th, 2023. We get together with our distribution partners most weekday mornings at this time to talk about strategies, tips, techniques, share success stories, and to support each of you. Does everyone see on your screen the credit and funding program failure to participate notice? Could anyone respond and confirm in the Q&A? It's like a chat box of Zoom. Very good. So thank you, Randy. So our purpose today, and I can recap kind of how we get to this point, but our purpose today is to talk about what we do when a client enrolls in the new credit and funding program but doesn't participate. So let's rewind back. So a few weeks ago, earlier in February, we launched the credit and funding program. It is a bundled approach at helping individuals become credible enough to qualify for a minimum of $100,000 of funding guaranteed. It addresses the 3 C's, credit, collateral, and capacity, in a bundled, integrated fashion, avoiding clients from having unexpected expenses. So in other words, if they need help strengthening their credit, we do that, and it doesn't cost them anything. If they need help strengthening their collateral, we literally transfer income producing assets over to their financials. And if they need help with capacity, which is equivalent to cash flow, in terms of better documentation, which also impacts funding, we do that at no cost. So the credit and funding program has had a really positive start, and thank you for those of you that are helping take it out to the marketplace. The credit and funding program is the financial reward to you / us as the technical advisors is based upon results. So clients will pay a performance fee after they get funding. After they get funding. When? After they get funding. If you're an affiliate, it's a standard. The clients will pay a standard 10% performance fee. The affiliate that brings the client makes 3 points, 3%. So in other words, 3,000 of every 100,000 the client raises. And our affiliate model has 2 tiers of overrides. We're not MLM or network marketing, but we pay overrides. And so that pays out 1 point each. If you're a white label partner, you control the terms and conditions, you control the pricing. And so whatever your performance fee is based upon what you charge. We do have a setup fee, a refundable setup fee when the client enrolls, and that's necessary to cover the setup costs. So with that being said, it's a great program, credible, legitimate, clients see immediate results. Our discussion today wasn't to go recap that. I just wanted to preface. So what we're talking about today is when a client has enrolled, and if they're not engaged, they're not participating, what do we do? Now, when I say what we do, this is if the client is a direct client. If you're a white label partner and you brought the client on under your contract, we will provide you an editable version of this, and you can change it up and use it if you would like. Typically, if it's a white label partner client, it is the white label partner's responsibility to get the client engaged. If it's what we call a direct client, in other words, they've come through our affiliate channel, then it's our responsibility to get the client engaged. So I'm going to show you today, and we're going to talk through the what, when, where, and how of this notice that we send out when a client has signed up directly with us, but they failed to get active. They failed to engage. So at this point, they've signed up, they've been onboarded, but they have not engaged. So then we'll give them a few days, and fairly quickly, usually, sorry, I have a sneeze coming, usually within a week of them enrolling, if they're not participating, we will send them this via Adobe. And it's not some hate letter. It's not, oh, you breached the contract and you're a horrible person. It's, hey, you've signed up and you're not participating. because we want clients to be happy. We want clients to be funded, but for those things to happen, they need to participate. So it starts by thanking the client again. So this is not their initial onboarding. Don't mistake that. They've already received the onboarding, right? That happened prior in the sequence. Here they've signed up, they have been onboarded, but they're not participating. So we let them know it appears that you're not participating, so you're receiving this notice. What we want to do is bring attention to the two things that we need them to do right away so we can do our job. And that would be the PFS and the soft credit pull. So again, they've received these instructions already when they were onboarded. Typically, the onboarding Adobe goes out to them the same day that they enroll. So that time has come and gone. They're not actively engaged, or maybe they have not paid their refundable setup fee. That could also be a trigger for this. So with the PFS provides clarity of net worth and assets. We'll be adding for free assets to increase your net worth, including collateral for funding. As long as you follow the provided instructions, just do your best and we'll help revise if necessary. So we provide them a link to the SBA form and we provide them a link to detailed instructions. And then they're instructed to, once they've completed the PFS form, to email it in. So that is the first of the two action steps that we're asking the client to do. We need this to be able to get ready to transfer the assets over. Our promise, our commitment, our contractual obligation is to transfer assets, income producing assets, what we call the debt portfolio, over to them once they've signed up, but we need to start with the PFS. The second of the two action steps is the soft credit pull. We need this to determine how to help them with their credit. Because they receive credit sweep for free. They receive credit boost for free, but they may or may not need it. We need to review the credit profile to come up with a plan, and this is how we do it. Now, in this case, it feeds to us automatically. They don't have to email it to us the way we need the PFS. So again, what we're discussing is when a client has signed up for the credit and funding program, if they're not engaged, in other words, they're not participating, or in fact, if they've not paid their refundable setup fee, we will send them this. If they're a direct client, if you're a white label partner, we'll provide you an editable version that you could send, and we're trying to get them to do these two immediate action steps. Again, these are redundant steps of what they've already been told on the onboarding, which has already been sent to them, but they've not engaged yet. Now, I will let you know that when a client signs up with us in the credit and funding program, not only will we send them an Adobe onboarding, we'll also text them to let them know to go look for that email, because we know the emails can get caught in filters or just get lost in the shuffle. So we're certainly making an adamant effort to create awareness. Yes, we know, client, you signed up, and we're working with you. So then we answer the question of what then. So once we have both the PFS and the soft credit pull from the client, we're going to review the file and respond to you promptly to work on your first tranche of financing. So we would like to get each of these clients an initial round of funding as soon as they sign up. Now, how much they'll qualify, or I guess even if they'll qualify for anything initially, will be based upon their credibility. I know they're signing up so we can help them improve their credibility and increase their borrowing capacity. We're all clear on that, but they may be able to get an initial tranche right away, but we won't know that if we don't have the data set. And that's what we talked about above. We'll also be able to properly implement your credit sweep, credit boost, income verification, and the collateral allocation, all free. Not selling them anything. We're helping them implement the credit and funding program. So this is all kind of good. Now we get to, well, what if you don't participate? So we've gotten to the point now we do need to let them know ramifications if they don't engage. So here it is. If you don't participate as you promised to, which is always in writing, of course, As stated in the credit and funding terms and conditions, sections 1A and 3D, you are in breach of this agreement. We don't want that to happen, as that would cause the acceleration clause 2J, and then they would be responsible for the entire amount owed under the credit and funding agreement. So there's this delicate balance. We want happy clients, we want engaged clients. We've already onboarded them. Now they've not engaged or they've not paid the refundable setup fee. So we're giving them one more prompting, trying to help them. But we needed to find a way to let them know, hey, there are ramifications if you don't engage. It's a breach of contract. But again, we're trying to soften it up, right? We want to love them and coddle them, but they do need to know that if they breach the contract, that's bad. So that gets into what if you don't participate? Well, if you don't participate as you promised to, you are in breach of this agreement, and what's going to happen is we're going to hold them accountable for what they promised to do in the agreement. And I think that's the purpose of contracts, right? Contracts clarify between two or more parties, but in this case, two parties, what each party is promised to do. So again, we don't want to be mean, we don't want to be hateful, but we do want the clients to engage. We also decided to include some relevant training modules so they could better understand. We give them some success stories, make sure they understand the portfolio that they receive for free, and let them know if the issue is they've not paid their refundable setup fee, there's financing available for that, right? And when we have a direct client, we invoice them for the refundable setup fee when they enroll, along with sending them their onboarding email. The invoice charges them $999.99. That's for our direct clients. That's how much the refundable setup fee is. Part of that goes to pay you, if you're an affiliate, for the referral. And then also it's the hard cost of getting the client set up. With QuickBooks, they'll get reminders, but and the invoice will also clarify, hey, if you need to work out some sort of a payment arrangement, let us know. But this is an explicit effort to say, hey, by the way, there is financing options available. So then we ask them to acknowledge receiving this. It'll go to them in an Adobe, so it'll have, I think it integrates like an initial, so it asks them to initial by each of the headings. I don't remember exactly. I believe that's the case. But then they sign. It's interactive, right? It's e-signature. They sign it, and then we sign off on it. So because we want the record to show, hey, you've signed up, and not only have we already onboarded you, we are trying to implement. We are trying to fulfill what we promised to do. However, to do so, we need these two action steps. So let's address questions, comments, concerns about the credit and funding program failure to participate notice. So Timothy's asking, do all clients receive this? Well, of course not, Timothy. Only those that are failing to participate. In other words, they've signed up, we've attempted to onboard them, but either they've not done these two things or they've not paid the setup fee. And then the process is to send this. So instead of going right after him, Timothy, and saying, hey, you breached the contract and making all these threats, we don't do that. We're just trying to prompt them to get them back on track. But if you're a white label partner, and so you bring a client on through your white label partnership, you have the agreement with them. We can provide this to you in an editable Word version so you can use it. But as a white label partner, that's your burden, your responsibility to get the client to participate. If it's a direct client, then it's ours. Hopefully that makes sense. Let me make it a bit smaller so maybe we can see the whole page. So who has questions, comments, concerns on the purpose of this document, the timing of the document, elsewhere? All right, so Susan's asking again about the refundable setup fee, and we talked about that on recent trainings. I mean, we have hard costs, and so with the hard costs, the client knows that there are there is a refundable setup fee. We make reference to that in the agreement, and it's very clearly stated. Now, we'll attempt, as I mentioned, to help them get financing for it, but if they're going to qualify for funding or not, I don't know. We'll have to see if they qualify or not. But it's just like anything in life, right? I mean, you wouldn't go out and buy something that you can't afford. So they know coming into it that there's a refundable setup fee. Now, again, if you're a white label partner, you control that. You could make it more or less than $999, $1,000, we'll call it. But if it's a direct client, they know that. It's explicitly stated, so it's not a surprise. However, we will help them get financing for that if they would like. But there's not a promise because we're not the lender. And so if they don't qualify for financing, they still owe that. All right. Chuck's asking what happens then. So, all right. So if the client signs up and then we onboard them typically the same day, they get the onboarding email that day, they get the invoice for the refundable setup fee that day, we send them a text that day. All three of those events occur almost simultaneously: the onboarding, the invoice, and the text prompting them of those two items. So then, as I mentioned, we'll let a little bit of time go by, but if they've not participated, they've not paid, then they receive this. We've covered that. And then if they don't engage, then they are in default, right? We've done our part to try to help them implement the program that they set up for. But Chuck's essentially asking straightforward, what happens then? Well, what happens is if someone breaches an agreement, then we're going to do probably one of two things. Either we'll just sell the contract to one of our debt buyers, or we'll litigate. And I know I'll be going over to the courthouse today. We've got about 50 new files to submit to the courthouse. So I don't know what to say. When clients enter into an agreement, both parties are promising to do what they said they would do. We'll certainly do our part, but we need the client to do their part. All right, so let's work on through some of the other questions. Randy's asking more about getting the refundable setup fee. So what will happen is once the client has signed up, now again, some of these process, the process will vary if it's a direct client to us. In other words, came through an affiliate versus a white label partner. But regardless of that, once the client has enrolled and we have the data set, then we can look for initial first tranche financing for them. And then, of course, that first tranche financing could be used to cover their refundable setup fee. And we had a training last week on a new lender partner we have that will finance the refundable setup fee. There's no hard inquiries on Experian, Equifax, or TransUnion. There's really no minimum credit score. Now, they still do underwriting, of course, but they're primarily looking at the client's ability to pay it back based upon capacity. So there are options, but Randy's question is, how do we trigger the financing for the refundable setup fee? And the answer to that is, Randy, once the client has signed up, we collect the data set, and then we can figure out where we might be able to go for their first tranche of financing. Thank you for that question, Randy. All right. Paulie asks, what's a conservative time frame for when a client neglects the agreement to get them to re-engage? All right. Well, so there's going to be two answers to that. Again, if you're a white label partner, then that's up to you. But what I would say is, if you're a white label partner, you obviously want to onboard the client promptly. We want to start showing them value right away. The goal is to get their credit suite going right away if needed. We want to get the assets transferred over. So that's 2 of the 3 C's. And then once we've done those 2, then we start working on the third C, which is making sure that their capacity is good. So we want to show the client value quickly. That really wasn't Paulie's question. So instead, if the client signs up and they don't engage, they don't participate, what we're doing is within a few days to a week, sending this out to try to prompt them. And then if that doesn't work, then we're going to either sell that defaulted account or we're going to litigate. But again, that sounds negative. You know, the credit and funding program is awesome. It's an incredibly valuable and needed program to help individuals become credible enough by helping them improve their 3 C's. So that's all very positive. Our point today was to cover what is it that we do when a client doesn't participate in the credit and funding program. Okay, any other questions, comments, concerns that anyone has? As far as leads, I know Warren, you got a bunch of leads from the gentleman up in New York. How are those leads working for you, Warren? We're always curious when any of our distribution partners, like Warren in this case, have found a new source of leads to see if those are panning out. We provide each of you a free landing page for the credit and funding program that you can drive your leads to. So it's to be an affiliate, there's no cost, there's nothing you have to buy, turnkey, free landing page. And if you're a white label partner, then Scott Stroud, our Chief Marketing Officer, can set up a personalized landing page for you, because white label partners wouldn't have a standardized landing page. They would have to have one that's tailored to them and their contractual provisions, their branding, and so forth. All right, so Warren, let me know how that works, because that same gentleman has contacted me wanting to sell leads to our other distribution partners, but I did not want to bring that source up to others until you validated that it worked. All right, anyone have any questions on the credit and funding program, how it works, how clients benefit, how you benefit as a referral partner, or most specifically, this process, what it is that we do to try to get clients engaged when they're not engaged? Because the goal is for clients to do what they promise to do, for us to do what we promise to do, and everyone be happy. But in some cases, clients don't engage, and this is the form, the document that we send to try to get them to engage. If they still don't engage, if they still don't pay the refundable setup fee, then we're going to either sell that note to one of our debt buyers, who will then most likely litigate, or we may keep it in-house and litigate it ourselves, because it's a breach of contract. Questions? Excuse me, had a sneeze there. Anyone else have questions, comments, concerns on the credit and funding program, how it works, or our good faith effort to get clients to engage and participate when they're not doing so? Because if you look into the credit and funding program, we are promising them to help them improve their 3 C's, credit, collateral, and capacity, and to help them get at least $100,000, but they have to be engaged. It's too good to be true. It's unrealistic. It's naive to think that someone can just sign up, do nothing, and then suddenly become credible enough for a large amount of funding. So we make promises and commitments to the clients, and the clients make promises and commitments. And so we all want to fulfill that. Again, if you're a white label partner, if you have a client that signs up through you and they don't participate and you just want to write it off or let it go, I mean, that's between you and them. But what we're talking about here is if it's a direct client. All right, well, we covered this. Hopefully this was helpful to understand our diligent and honest effort in getting clients to engage if they're not in the new credit and funding program. You now know how that works, and we'll see you back tomorrow morning. Have a great day. Bye-bye.